Which of these cars is faster? The answer seems obvious. One is an 1800 horsepower Nissan GTR, a machine engineered to launch like a fighter jet and devour supercars worth several times its price, and the other one's a Honda Civic. A car most people associate with commuting to work, picking up groceries, and being passed by almost everything else on the road. And yet, there are situations where the Civic wins. Not a YouTube comment section, not a hypothetical argument. In reality. So what makes a car fast? Is it horsepower, top speed, acceleration, lap times? Because the more I thought about it, the stranger the questions become. The word fast feels obvious until you actually try and define it. For most people, the answer starts and ends with horsepower. How much horsepower is equal to speed? Simple. That's why manufacturers advertise it. That's why enthusiasts chase it. That's why almost every conversation about performance eventually turns into numbers. 300 horsepower, 500 horsepower, 1000 horsepower, 1800 horsepower. The numbers keep getting bigger. And yet, horsepower alone clearly isn't enough. If it were, every vehicle with the most horsepower would always be the fastest. But that's not what happens. A Formula One car produces less power than many purpose built drag cars, yet put them on almost any racing circuit and a Formula One car disappears into the distance. The drag car isn't slow, the Formula One car isn't more powerful. They're simply optimized for different definitions of speed. And that's where the first cracks appear. Because the moment context changes everything, our definition changes too. Maybe horsepower doesn't make a car fast. Maybe it only gives it the potential to be. So perhaps horsepower is the wrong metric. Maybe acceleration is what really matters. After all, acceleration is what we can feel. It's the force pushing us into the seat. It's what creates that addictive sensation that enthusiasts spend thousands of dollars chasing. Today, a family EV can accelerate faster than some of the most celebrated supercars ever built. The number is truly astonishing. Cars that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago now sit quietly in suburban driveways. Yet something strange happens when you talk to enthusiasts. Many will admit that some of the quickest cars they've ever driven weren't necessarily the most exciting, which creates another problem. If acceleration defines fast, then why doesn't the fastest accelerating car always feel the fastest? Maybe top speed then? Surely top speed is the ultimate measure. Except most people never experience it. A car capable of 350 kilometers an hour spends almost its entire life traveling at a fraction of that speed. A number can be impressive, but if it never enters your experience, what does it actually mean? Every metric seems convincing until you find its limitation. Horsepower, acceleration, top speed. Each captures part of the truth, but none capture all of it. But even this falls apart surprisingly quickly. Fast where? A drag strip? A tight technical circuit? The Nürburgring? A rally stage? A mountain road? The answer changes every time. The same car can feel unstoppable in one environment and completely out of place in another. Nothing about the car has changed, only the context did. And suddenly fast starts to look less like a property of the machine and more like a relationship between the machine and its environment. The more precise we try to become, the more difficult the definition becomes. Now comes the part most of you are probably screaming about in the comments. The biggest variable of them all, the person behind the wheel. Imagine giving a Formula One car to the average driver. Now imagine giving a lightweight sports car to one of the best racing drivers on earth. Who would win? The uncomfortable answer is that talent often matters more than machinery. Every track day has stories of expensive supercars being overtaken by cars worth just a fraction of the price. Not because the expensive cars lack capability, but because capability and performance are not the same thing. Potential speed and actual speed are not the same thing. A car can only go as fast as its driver is willing to take it. And willingness is psychology. Fear has speed. Confidence has speed. Trust has speed. The fastest machinery in the world becomes slow the moment its driver no longer believes it can control it, which means speed isn't entirely mechanical. Part of it exists inside the human mind. This is where things become really interesting, because some of the most memorable cars ever built aren't actually that fast, not by modern standards. A lightweight sports car from the 1990s, a hot hatch, a motorcycle, a classic roadster. On paper, many of them are objectively slower compared to modern performance cars, yet people describe them as exhilarating, alive, terrifying, fast. How? Because humans don't experience speed directly. We experience sensation, noise, vibration, wind, movement, and risk. A modern luxury car can travel at extraordinary speeds while feeling completely composed. A lightweight sports car can travel much slower while making you feel like you're hanging on to reality by your fingertips. The speed is slower, the experience is greater. And that raises a strange possibility. Perhaps what we're calling speed isn't actually speed. Perhaps we're measuring emotion. But even then, emotion doesn't stay consistent. The first time you drive a genuinely quick car, it feels unbelievable. The acceleration feels impossible. Your brain struggles to process what's even happening. Then something unexpected happens. You get used to it. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Humans are remarkably good at normalizing extraordinary experiences. The dream car becomes your car. The impossible becomes familiar. The extraordinary becomes ordinary. The car didn't become slower. You changed. A teenager might find 120 horsepower thrilling. Years later, 400 horsepower feels normal. Not because speed changed, but because expectations changed. The reference point moved. And suddenly, we arrive at a deeper question. If something only feels fast relative to what came before it, is fast even a fixed concept at all? This is where I think the conversation changes completely. Because when enthusiasts say they want a fast car, I don't think they're actually talking about speed. At least not entirely. I think they're talking about the feeling they had during their first pull, their first track day, their first project car. The moment they realized cars could be more than just transportation. And the cruel irony is that the more speed we acquire, the harder that feeling becomes to find. Not because the cars are getting slower, but because we're adapting. The numbers grow, the experience shrinks, the chase continues. So what makes a car fast? Horsepower helps, acceleration helps, grip definitely helps, and so does aerodynamics. Driver skill is a key part, but none of them fully answer the question. Because fast isn't just a characteristic of a machine, it's a relationship. A relationship between capability, context, expectations, and experience. A relationship between a car and the person driving it, which means the fastest car in the world isn't necessarily the one with the biggest number. It's the one that makes you feel speed most intensely. And maybe that's why the question is so difficult to answer. Because when we ask what makes a car fast, we're really asking something much bigger. We're asking why human beings are so obsessed with chasing a feeling that disappears the moment we catch it. Maybe the reason we struggle to define fast is because it was never really about speed. It was about how speed made us feel, the excitement and the freedom. The moment a machine became something more than just transport. And perhaps that's why we're always searching for more. Not for a faster car, but for the feeling we had when the last one was enough. Because the deeper you look, the harder fast becomes to define. And I have a feeling it's not the only thing. What makes a car good? What makes it fun? What makes us love them in the first place? Those questions seem too simple until you try and answer them.